For decades, we've told men the same thing. Do not ejaculate for 2 to 7 days before the egg retrieval in order to optimize outcomes. Turns out, this advice was never designed for IVF success, and it might be working against you. We're going to go over the new evidence and what we should be doing today. I'm Dr. Lora, Shahine, a double board certified OBGYN and reproductive endocrinologist, helping people build families with IVF for almost 2 decades. If this is your first time finding this channel, welcome. I am so glad you're here. Be sure and subscribe so you get my regular videos all about reproductive health. And if you're coming back because you found this information valuable, welcome back. I'm so glad you're here. There are 2 other ways to learn from me and stay up to date. Number 1, you can sign up for my newsletter. The link is in the description below. And number 2 is my Brave and Curious podcast with interviews and deep dive discussions on all things reproductive health. Today, we are talking about IVF and specifically a modifiable way that you might be able to improve your outcomes that you had no idea about. Timing when to ejaculate before the egg retrieval may dramatically improve your IVF success, and we've got to know about this information. Today, we're going to go over some specific topics. Number 1, we're going to go over where did this recommendation of 2 to 7 days come from anyway. Topic number 2, we're going to go over the new and updated evidence about what you might be doing differently. And finally, 3, we will recap and I'll give you some very important questions to ask your doctor and your IVF clinic to get your personal recommendation. Topic number 1, where did this recommendation of 2 to 7 days come from anyway? This is long-standing recommendations in IVF. I've been practicing for almost 20 years, and I have said this for a very long time. This long-standing recommendation comes from the World Health Organization, recommended abstaining 2 to 7 days before a semen analysis, because we know that the longer the sperm stays in the body, you can have a higher volume, but we're going to lose motility. So you might have a high quantity, but the quality isn't going to be very good. And then if you ejaculate too close to when we're doing a semen analysis and we're testing sperm, you might have lots and lots of nodal sperm, but you can have low volume and low count. So when they're trying to standardize what is a normal semen analysis, they gave everyone this same recommendation so that when you're looking at numbers, you are comparing to other people that also follow the same abstinence guidelines. So this test was designed for optimizing outcomes, comparing information for semen analysis. It was never designed thinking about optimizing the sperm sample for IVF outcomes. This is all changing. There's new evidence that is supporting that we should be recommending a different abstinence period for men getting ready to collect for an egg retrieval. I'm going to go over the studies with you today. We're going to go over 5 studies, and I'm going to make sure you know where they came from. I'll give a little bit of review about what they did and what they found, because they're telling a really important story. Study number 1 gives us a big picture outlook on abstinence and sperm quality. The title was Association of Abstinence Time with Semen Quality in Men Undergoing Fertility Evaluation. The lead author is Yao. It was published in 2024 in Frontiers in Endocrinology. The objective was to define how abstinence can impact sperm quality over time. The researchers ran a cross-sectional analysis in over 3,000 men undergoing fertility treatment. They found a non-linear relationship. Abstinence under 1 day and abstinence over 7 days was associated with poor sperm parameters. So we already talked about how not ejaculating for over 7 days is associated with building up maybe a high quantity of sperm, but not a lot of them are moving and swimming. But this under a day analysis showed maybe not the best sperm parameters you would think about for a semen analysis, but they did find that the sperm from this short window, this abstinence under a day, had less DNA fragmentation. So again, longer abstinence, higher volume, more sperm, but shorter abstinence, more motility, and better quality, lower fragmented sperm. Study number 2, we're looking at trying to connect abstinence to IVF outcomes. The title of this study is The Effect of Ejaculatory Abstinence interval on sperm parameters and clinical outcome for ART, that's assisted reproductive technologies. Lead author is Sokol. It was published in 2021 in the Journal of Clinical Medicine. The objective was to evaluate whether abstinence intervals influence not only sperm, but IVF outcomes. It was a systematic review of multiple articles in the literature. Abstinence under 1 day was associated with better progressive motility, normal morphology, and lower DNA fragmentation. We saw this in the previous study, but this new study also associated shorter abstinence with higher euploidy rates. That means more embryos with normal chromosome balance. In the conclusion of this study, the authors questioned whether we should be still recommending this 2 to 7 day abstinence period before IVF. The third study I want to share with you is looking at live birth outcomes in IVF in relationship to abstinence period for sperm collection. The title was, Does Duration of Abstinence Affect the Live Birth Rate After Assisted Reproductive Technology? The lead author is Harry Yasami, and it was published in 2017 in Fertility and Sterility. The objective of the study was to directly compare live birth rates across abstinence windows. When you abstained before collecting for the IVF cycle and the egg retrieval, how did that impact the live birth rate in the IVF cycle? They found that the group of men that observed the 2 to 7 day window of abstinence had a much higher live birth rate than men that waited more than a week. So again, we are learning that this more than a week, trying to save up the sperm to have a huge quantity of sperm on the day of the egg retrieval, that is not recommended. They also found a subgroup of men that abstained 2 to 4 days before the egg retrieval had a higher live birth rate than men that abstained 5, 6 to 7 days. So in conclusion, in this study, they do not recommend waiting more than 7 days, and they found that the sweet spot was somewhere between 2 and 4 days of abstinence before egg retrieval. The fourth study I want to share with you is about pregnancy, live birth, and DNA fragmentation. It's study, the title of the study is The Influence of Male Ejaculatory Abstinence Time on Pregnancy Rate, Live Birth Rate, and DNA Fragmentation, a systematic review. The author is Sorensen. It came out in 2023 in the Journal of Clinical Medicine. The objective was to determine if the outcomes I just mentioned were associated with abstinence time before egg collection. The authors systematically reviewed 24 research trials, looking at pregnancy rate, live birth rate, DNA fragmentation rate. They found that intervals roughly under 1 to 2 days before egg collection were associated with higher pregnancy rates, higher live birth rates, and lower DNA fragmentation in the sperm samples. In the conclusion, the authors are seeing a benefit to having a shorter window than the traditional 2 to 7 days before egg collection. They saw better outcomes if it was only 1 to 2 days before the egg collection. However, they do remark that the studies that they're looking at, those 24 studies, they were all so different in so many of the different parameters and how the information was collected in the lab, etc., that they were showing a trend, but they're very careful to make a strong recommendation based on the 24 studies that they looked at. Finally, study number 5, this is the most recent study we have looking at this very specific question. This is an expert opinion. It was titled Abstinence for Sperm Sample Collection of an ART Outcome, an Unsubstantiated Myth. The lead author is Schlegel. It was published in 2024 in the Journal of Current Opinion in Obstetrics and Gynecology. The objective was to critically assess the traditional recommendation of abstinence of 2 to 7 days before egg collection. This, again, was an expert review of current available evidence. The conclusion was direct. Optimal sperm quality for IVF use is abstinence of less than 1 day. And these authors actually go as far to say that there's some studies that suggest an abstinence of actually less than 4 hours might be even better. Now, listen, that might not be possible for people. I'm just sharing what this particular expert opinion was. But the authors conclude, along with what so many of the studies in the last 10 years have said, that this traditional 2 to 7 day abstinence established by the World Health Organization for a standard semen analysis results comparison is not designed for optimal outcome for IVF, and a shorter window of abstinence may improve DNA fragmentation, sperm quality, and even IVF outcomes. So the practical takeaway from this video and the research that we are going over here today is to have a conversation with your team. If you are receiving a recommendation and handout from your nurse that says 2 to 7 day abstinence window before egg collection, ask the question. Say, hey, I know that this is based on decades of information in the World Health Organization for comparing results for semen analysis, but it's my understanding that new evidence shows that a shorter window between last ejaculation and ejaculation for egg collection might actually result in lower DNA fragmentation, better sperm quality, and maybe even better outcomes for IVF. Can we talk about this? Now, you might have a reason that that might not be recommended, especially if there is significant oligospermia, like less than 1 million sperm on a sample. It might not be ideal to have a really short abstinence window. So you've got to talk to your doctor about your personal situation. You now have information to have an incredible conversation. But remember, you've got to be sure that you're doing what is right for your situation. I really hope that this is helpful. I hope this is interesting. I love this information. I love discovering something that is modifiable and a simple change that somebody can do that might dramatically improve their IVF outcomes. So I think this is incredible. I hope you found it interesting. Please like this video if you learned something. Comment with questions that you have. Be sure and subscribe to this channel so you get my weekly videos all about reproductive health. Be sure and listen to the podcast. You can find the playlist here on YouTube. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok. I just love educating. I really appreciate what you're doing here. And until next week, stay brave and curious.